Hello, and thanks for joining us for this Spotlight Series segment. I'm James Green, partner at ActualTech Media and VP for Content, and I'm excited to host a discussion today about data protection and the cloud and the future of building resilient businesses where the applications that generate value for our businesses stay online and when we have issues we can recover quickly. And I've got a special guest to help me have that conversation today. So before we get started, let me introduce you to Simon, or rather I'm going to have Simon introduce himself and maybe say a little bit about HYCU as well.
Sounds great, James. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Simon Taylor, and I'm the CEO of HYCU. We're an industry leader in multi-cloud backup as a service. HYCU was founded just about 3 years ago, and we started out really looking at the world of hybrid multi-cloud. And we had a simple realization, which is that if you look through the legacy of data protection, backup companies typically were very good at supporting a platform that they were intended for, and had a lot of trouble sort of moving into other areas of the data center and the data estate. And we said, in a multi-cloud world, that's just not going to work. So how do we build the right kind of platform to support hybrid multi-cloud from a backup and recovery perspective? And we spent the last 3 years doing that. We introduced HYCU Protege, which is now an industry leader in multi-cloud backup and recovery as a service.
So something I know about the way that you approach that is to basically say, instead of we're going to build a solution and then kind of tie it into each of the different clouds it needs to run, you said we're going to build the right solution for each cloud. So we're going to build HYCU essentially once for this cloud and once for this cloud, so that it's custom tailored to the needs of users of that cloud. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure, James. I don't know if I can do a better job than you just did, but certainly we call it purpose-built backup and recovery as a service for a reason. We think that a lot of the major players in the space spend a lot of time trying to work on the car. We wanted to make sure that the engine in the car, or engines, was capable of supporting any cloud that you wanted to leverage your data within. So as an example, many of the other vendors, they start out, they want to build one end-to-end platform. And they end up deploying agents to the other platforms and the other services that they need to back up and recover. We said, instead of doing that, let's flip the platform paradigm. And we created what we call the inverted platform. We built purpose-built backup and recovery services, one for Nutanix, one for VMware. We introduced the world's first purpose-built backup as a service for Google Cloud. Then we introduced one for Azure as well, and then VMware on AWS. And with all of these purpose-built backup and recovery services already built, they look like the platform, they feel like the platform, they're natively integrated. We said, now we'll just up-level that data into a very lightweight platform that can sort of be one ring to rule them all. And that's HYCU Protege. So instead of starting with a big box that you stick in your basement and then deploying wires and duct tape to make it all work, we said that's not the right way. Everything that our customers use needs to be native to the platforms we support, whether that's cloud native or that's native to the platform on-prem. And then it's a simple job to then up-level that data and give customers the control to manage their entire data estate, under a single pane of glass.
Now, when it comes to protecting the broad range of applications that folks are using today, another one of the challenges with some, especially more mature and long-lived, I'm trying to be nice here, data protection solutions, is that basically when they try to protect cloud-native applications, again, it's as you put it, sort of a bolt-on, or it's a little bit duct-taped into the platform. I'm imagining you took a different approach to that at HYCU. Can you talk about data protection specifically for modern cloud-native sort of applications?
Absolutely, James. So a couple of things I'd point out. The first is that it's not about the backup. Anybody can build backup. It's about having great recovery, really being able to go as granular as possible without inconveniencing all of the different resource managers that are supporting all of that data and those production environments. So one of the benefits about HYCU is that because we are effectively a distributed data protection layer that's natively integrated into each cloud, what that means is when we deploy application or workload support, we can leverage all the best elements of the platform that we're supporting. That might be our security protocols, that might be being actually able to leverage the native integrations, But I think from an application support perspective, let's take SAP HANA. SAP has historically been one of the most cumbersome workloads to ever have to manage when it comes to backup and recovery. For HYCU, it was really in no time at all, we were able to actually build a back-end integration into GCP and Microsoft Azure so that we could very easily support native SAP HANA workloads in the cloud. And because we also do the same thing on-prem, we can then enable our customers to auto-migrate an entire SAP instance from on-prem to cloud and then bring it back again for disaster recovery as a service as well. So we really simplify that process for the customer, but it all starts with that purpose-built backup and recovery service. If we weren't natively integrated into each of those platforms, you would never have that capability, not in a million years, and you'd be back to the duct tape, the wires, and the agents.
Yeah. I'd be ignoring the elephant in the room if I didn't ask about COVID-19, which has obviously been kind of a forcing mechanism for a lot of IT departments, pushing them to do things that either they needed to come up with solutions quickly. In a lot of cases, I think it was things they had been thinking about doing for a long time, and this just accelerated that. What have you been seeing in your customer base as far as, especially as it relates to data protection, what the pandemic has done for IT or to IT?
Yes, so I'd break it into two very distinct categories. First is the race to cloud. It's no longer a walk or a jog. It's a straight up sprint to cloud. The ransomware attacks, which have just gone off the charts in the last sort of 12 to 16 months. So, but starting with the positive, I think that, the long-term digital transformation we've all been waiting for finally happened with the advent of cloud. The advent of COVID, rather. And while COVID has been absolutely atrocious for the entire world at large, I think what it did is it really spurred people on to say, I need to be remote. I need to have all of my data protected. I must be in multiple places at the same time. Cloud makes the most sense for my company. And what that in turn did is it forced IT departments to look at all of the shadow IT that was going on. They looked at all of this sort of unprotected data that they were moving to the cloud. And I remember when we first launched our Google Cloud backup as a service, 2 years ago, customers would say to our sellers, I don't think I need to back it up. Doesn't Google just return my data if I lose it? And the answer, of course, is no, they do not. There's actually a very clear article in the contract which says they will not take care of your data. It's on you it's your responsibility to back that up and protect it. And I think that whole notion of I don't need to worry about it ended with COVID. I think the fact that so many companies were migrating so much data to the cloud, and by the way, back again as well, data was moving all over the place last year. And we saw that across our customer base for sure. But the necessity, the need to protect that data became incredibly important to customers around the world. And so I think we saw, just rocket ship, growth in terms of, backup for cloud data. The second piece, a lot sort of more terrible to speak about is certainly ransomware attacks, criminality, cyber hacks. All of these things have really grown just ferociously, throughout COVID. A lot of, bad actors have absolutely been trying to take advantage of customers. And we've gotten more and more calls, customers saying, hey, I was attacked, what do I do? And for us, it's all about immutable storage. It's all about never, ever, ever allowing anybody to get access to your data room, limiting password protection, limiting passwords across companies, making sure that all of the simple things can keep out the hackers. But the second piece of that is, the fact that HYCU, fortunately, is built on CentOS and is Linux-based, we make it a lot more difficult for hackers to find our data. And, thankfully, we've been able to pass that protection on to our thousands of customers around the world. And we've had some really amazing stories where customers thought all their data was lost. They thought they had no chance to get it back. And it turned out that even though they went after every other system, they couldn't get through HYCU. And we were able to return the data to the customer in many cases without them ever having to pay a dime or a Bitcoin. And I think that's been one of the real silver linings over the last sort of COVID experience has been, the fact that our data protection services, our backup and recovery as a service, is truly helping customers in a very straightforward way. Customers are seeing the value, and they're really able to save their companies in some cases, simply because of the backup. So simple rule of thumb, always back up. Immutable storage is important, and certainly make sure that the data protection provider of choice is as closely aligned, as native to the cloud and the platform they need to back up as possible. Because any gap whatsoever creates systemic risk for your customers and for yourselves, and we would never want anything bad to happen to you. And so I think we've really walked into a very new kind of leadership position in the ransomware space simply because of those things. And that's been a real badge of honor for us at HYCU over the last year.
Obviously, lots of challenging stuff last year, but one of the cool things I heard you say there was that you're seeing people take more responsibility for their data and understand that what their role is in protecting their data. So that's really neat to hear.
Yeah.
If somebody's watching and they're ready to take some more responsibility for their data and they want to take a peek at how HYCU might be able to help there, what would you recommend they do next to learn more?
James, they can just go to www.hycu.com. That's HYCU.com. Or check me out on Twitter at Simon Haiku. We'll see you there, and we look forward to helping many more customers in the coming weeks, months, and years.
Very good. Well, Simon, it's always fun to chat. Thank you for joining us on the Spotlight Series show today. It's been fun having you, and thanks everybody for watching.